Whoa! If you think that these two amplifiers sound the same, think again. In today's video, we are comparing these two EVH amplifiers, the 5153 100 watt 6L6 Stealth and the 5153 50 watt 6L6 Stealth. So they look very similar. They are basically the same, but they're not the same. Of course, this is a smaller amp, more compact, 50 watts with two 6L6 tubes in the power section. This is the big boy. This thing is massive. 4 power tubes, so more headroom, more oomph. In terms of the controls, they're not exactly the same, but they do have 3 channels each. So a green, blue, and a red channel. The 100 watt amp has all the controls for each channel. So individual gain, volume, and 3-band EQs for each channel, as well as 3 presence controls. So 1 for each channel, and 3 resonance controls on the back, 1 for each channel as well. Those are set somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock, which is kind of my favorite setting, so the sweet spot. This one also has 3 channels, but channel 1 and 2 have a shared EQ. They do have the dual concentric pots, so they do have an individual gain and volume control for green and blue. And then the red channel has its own section over here, but only with 1 presence control for the entire amp and 1 resonance control for the entire amp as well. I have the resonance controls on the back set the same, just as a starting point. The presence control on the 50 watt is very different in terms of its response versus the 100 watt. So as you can see, the presence controls on the big boy are set pretty high as it's a darker amp. So the taper of these pots is very different. And the presence control on the 50 watt is set to noon, which is, you know, kind of the same area in terms of how it sounds. Okay. Now for switching between the amps, I'm using this KHE Audio Electronics 4x2 amp cab selector. Number 1 is the big 100 watt amp, and number 2 is the 50 watt. I have foot switches hooked up for both the amplifiers to switch between the amp channels, as doing this with my fingers can really get in the way of the pots. I don't want to mess with the volume because I matched the volume levels as close as I could just now. For the guitar, I'm using this Kiesel Antares that they build me. Really awesome guitar. Love it. Tuned to drop C sharp. Going into my pedal board just for zoot out the gate. And then it's going into the amplifiers, into my Grossmann Fatbox 1x12, in which I've loaded up my trusty Celestion Vintage 30, mic'd up with 3 mics, 2 SM57s and 1 MD421 Kompakt, sent into the DAW, and that's what you're hearing. Okay, we're gonna start on the red channel. Okay, let's have some fun here and see how different or similar they sound. All right, so red channel on the 100 watt. Let's take a listen. Whoa, that sounds great. I love this amp so much. And the red channel definitely is my favorite channel of the amplifier. You know, it's funny, I said this in my review of the 50 watt. Everybody says that the stealths are way over the top, way too compressed, way too gainy, but I don't agree. You know, I think that they sound great. So the gain is set to around 2 o'clock and it sounds just fine. It's not over gained or over compressed or anything like that. So it sounds really good. We've got low set to 1 o'clock, mid to noon, treble set to around 2 o'clock. And again, presence cranked up pretty darn high. Okay, let's take another listen. Now there's another thing to note about the 100 watt version, which is not the case with the 50 watt, and that is that the gain control of the blue channel affects how the red channel sounds. So that's another variable with this amplifier that the 50 watt does not have. I have it set to around 3 o'clock right now. I will demonstrate to you what I'm talking about, okay, just so you get an idea of how you can shape the tone of the red channel with the gain control of the blue channel. I'm just gonna do some chugging. And again, we're on the red channel, but I'm going to do some chugging and then move the gain control of the blue channel so you guys can hear what I'm talking about, okay? Starting at 3 o'clock. So the response of the amplifier gets a little bit more soft and sort of less attacky and less aggressive when you turn down the gain on the low channel. Let's crank it up again, and again, see how it affects the tone. So it adds quite a bit of aggression and tightness and just snarliness to the red channel. We're going to stick with 3 o'clock for now. I don't know how that is set internally on the 50 watt. Okay, so that's just something that we have to keep in mind when we're comparing the two, that is a difference between these amplifiers already. Okay. So yeah, this amp sounds so mean, so tight and aggressive, and it just sounds so good by default. Love it a lot. Now, let's go to the 50 watt and see how they compare. Okay, let me do some quick chugs first on the 100 watt and then switch. All right, so that's the 50 watt that you're hearing right now. Also a very good sound, but not the same, right? Let's go back and forth for a second. Yeah, so the 50 watt sounds a bit more compressed, a bit more squishy, and a bit less punchy in the low end. So the top end is a little bit more open as well. Some would say fizzy. Whereas this one is a little bit more smooth up top, a little bit less hairy with the current settings, I should say. But they both sound really good. Let's do another quick comparison and then start dialing in the amps a little bit to see if we can make them sound closer. Okay, so going back to the 100. $50 watt. Yeah, cool. Yeah, maybe this one sounds a little bit more modern. I don't know. But they do have their own flavor, as you can hear, right? Now, as I said, the top end on this one is a little bit more on the sizzly side, right? Whereas this one has a very nice smooth top end. Could have something to do with the taper of the presence pots. Now, let me demonstrate how different the presence controls are in terms of the response. So, this is the 100 watt. Let me just go to noon so you can hear how that sounds. Very dark, right? This is noon on the 50 watt. Let's take a listen. So the response there is very different. Now, let's go back to the 100 and crank that presence up a bit to match the 50. So I'm very high. I can't really see it, but somewhere between, somewhere around 4 o'clock or so. Let's see how close they sound now. The 50 still sounds a little bit brighter. Let's add a little bit because around this area, the control gets very touchy on the 100, okay? Going back to the 50. So that's a little bit closer. The feel definitely is different. The low end on this one just feels more powerful. And this one just compresses a little bit more. So that's cool. Let me just demonstrate the response of the 50 watt real quick for you. Going back to the 50 and let you guys hear that. So it's more linear, okay? Whereas the presence control on the 100 watt doesn't do a whole lot until the last bit, which is also the case with the PV6505 that I have at least, or the ones that I've owned. So now let's try to add a little bit of low end oomph on the 50 by just cranking the resonance control on the back up a little bit more than on the 100 watt to see if we can match that low end punch, okay? Okay, so I've raised the resonance up on the 50 watt to between 3 and 4 o'clock. So I've nudged it up a little bit. Let's see what that does. Going back to the 100. The 100 does have a bit more of a tight response, if you will. Let's do that again, starting with the 100. 50. Yeah, so the 50 still is a little bit brighter. Let's add a little bit of high, so treble, a little bit of presence, and also add a little bit of resonance on the 50. First, I'm going to do the high and presence. Then I'm going to turn up the resonance a little bit more, okay? And yeah, let's switch back and forth. So again, the 100 watt. $50 watt. Let's flick back and forth a little bit between the two, okay? Starting with the 50. Yeah, so the 100 just seems to have a bit more aggression. Maybe it's because of the gain on the blue channel, the trick that I showed you. Just the string clarity, there's a bit more of that. This one sounds just a little bit more squishy, a little bit less tight, but still very good. We can try lowering the gain on the 50 a little bit to see how close we can get it that way. The gain is already up a little bit more on the 100, so it's around 2 o'clock on the 100. Right now we're on 1 o'clock on the 50. Let's do one final tweak. That's the 100, going back to the 50. Okay, let's add some mids there. Let's back off the presence a little bit. Let's add a bit of low in there. Back off the gain just a smidge and add even more resonance on the 50. Let me check the levels. All right, so starting with the 100, here we go. $50. Yeah, they both sound killer on the red channel, but the 100 watt just has something really mean and tight, and the low end is just gut punching, you know? But in terms of the red channel, I still think that the 50 watt has a cool character. It's just a little bit different, maybe a little bit more polite, if you will. I like them both. All right, so now we're gonna go to channel 2 on each amplifier. So the blue channel, the crunch channel. We're starting with the same settings, okay? So with the 50 watt, the top controls, so the dark gray controls are the blue channel controls. And of course, these are the controls for the blue channel on the 100 watt. Let's take a listen, okay, to what we have in terms of the sound that I've dialed in right now. That's the 100 watt. Let's switch to the 50 watt. Back to the 100. $50. Maybe there's a very slight volume difference. Let me bump up the gain of the volume on the 50 ever so slightly. These volume controls can be a little bit touchy, okay? Okay, so this is the 50 watt. $100 watt. Yeah, there's still a little bit of a volume difference. Let's go back and try to compensate even more. So what I've noticed is that the taper of the volume pots is more smooth on the 50 watt. So the difference between volume is a bit more gradual on this one. Whereas with the 100 watt, you get pretty loud when you've got the volume controls set low. That's why I've set them pretty low, as you can see. But yeah, let's go back and forth. 50 watt. Yeah, so again, the 100 watt is more smooth, but it does have a bit more string definition, and the 50 watt, again, is a little bit more compressed, right? Both have their use. I think this one has a bit more of that brown sound going on that people like so much. So this is the 100 watt, 50 watt. Now, a lot of this, or at least a portion of this, will be a feel difference. I don't know if it will translate in the video, but this definitely feels a little bit more squishy and compressed. It might sound very similar if you're listening to this video and not playing the guitar yourself, right? So again, 100 watt on the blue channel. 50 watt. Yeah, so I'd say that the 50 watt is a little bit more scooped as well, with a lot of mid-range focus on the 100 watts on the blue channel. What we can also do is crank the gain controls on the blue channel for each amp. just so you guys get an idea of how they differ with the gain cranked all the way, okay? So this is the 50 watt. $100 watt. So let's bump up the presence on the 100 watt a little bit more. And do another comparison. 100 watt. $50 watt. That's a bit closer, right? So the difference between the two definitely has a lot to do with how the presence control is voiced, if you will. But yeah, again, I like both. And just to echo what I already said, the 50 watt is just a bit more brown soundy, a bit more compressed, a bit more squishy, and a bit more sizzly up top. Now, the green channel is where this gets really interesting and very different. So the green channel on the 100 watt is really gained out. As you can see, I have the gain on the 100 watt set to, let's say, 8 o'clock. I don't know if you can see this, but on the 50 watt, I have it set to noon. Let's check the difference. So this is the 100 watt. Let me switch to the neck pickup. So there's some nice breakup going on there, right? With the gain set super low. Now let's go to the 50 watt, okay? I think the EQ settings are the same. Yes, here we go. Back to the 100. Much more gained out already. Let's lower the gain on the 100 a bit. Let me try to get the volume levels similar. So they're far from the same sounding. That's the 100. So the 50 is a bit brighter sounding and more pokey, more dynamic, more headroomy, as you can tell, hopefully. So what I'm going to do now, let's go back to the 100. Let's get some crunch out of the green channel, okay? I'm going to have to lower the volume here too. Okay, so this is with gain at noon for the 100 watts. Let's go back to the 50 with also the gain set to noon. Huge difference, right? In terms of the amount of gain that there is on tap. We can try to get some grit out of the 50 watt as well. Let's crank the gain up all the way. Of course, I had to lower the volume a little bit to compensate for the added gain. So this is the 50 with the gain cranked up all the way. Let's go to the 100 with gain set to noon. Yeah, so going back to the 50, lowering the level a little bit more even. So back on the 50, I've lowered the volume even more. Back to the 100. So, you know, the green on the 100 watt is basically a crunch or high gain channel even, depending on how you look at it and how old you are. Just joking. Whereas, you know, on the 50 watt, it's basically a clean channel where you can add a little bit of grit. So this is the maximum amount of grit that you have on the 50 watt. And if we go back to the 100 and crank the gain up all the way, this is what we get, okay? I'm willing to bet that that is even more gain than Eddie's old vintage Marshalls. So that's a very big difference, right? I don't want to make this video too long, so let's end it. Yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I think that the 100 watt has more punch, is a bit more aggressive, a bit more mid-focused, a bit more smooth up top. Not that you can't tweak that, of course, with the controls. Whereas the 50 watt obviously has less headroom, a bit less control. It's a bit more squishy, it's a bit more polite, a little bit more fizzy sounding, but still an excellent amplifier. I really enjoy them both, and I kind of like that they sound different because I do own both, and having the same amp just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I thought this was a lot of fun. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to get one of these amplifiers, check out my affiliate links for Thomann and Sweetwater, as that would really help out the channel. I'd really appreciate it. You can also check out my capture packs that I made for Tonix and the Quad Cortex of the 100 watt. They came out really nice in my website, sonicdrivestudio.com. Follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram and all that good stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Cheers, guys.